gentlemen, friends, colleagues, Martians, if there are any Martians, thank you for coming. My name is Randall Kempner. I'm the Executive Director of the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. We are a network of 230 organizations around the world that support small and growing businesses, small business entrepreneurs, specifically in emerging markets. And we care deeply about the question of how you build the next generation of entrepreneurs and how you support the entrepreneurs that already exist. Before we get into talking about who else is on the panel, we want to just learn quickly a little bit about you. So by raise of hands, and we'll get to more technological stuff later, but by raise of hands, how many of you are entrepreneurs? Wow. Okay, how many of you are entrepreneurial support organizations? I see there's some overlap there. How many of you are investors? A few of you, we like you. Thank you for coming. How many of you believe that the state of Texas is the greatest state in the United States of America? All right, any question you want. So I'm going to let the panelists describe themselves, but just so you know who you've got. To my left is Mario Molteni from the Universidad Cattolica de Sacro of Milano.
Well done.
That's tough for a man with a Texan accent. Suzanne Biegel, who I love her title, love your title, Catalyst at Large, and works on the Spring Project. Next is Sam Mukasa from the University of New Hampshire, and then Ayman Ismail of the American University of Cairo, and then we have Casper the Ghost, who may become John Harthone of the Mass Challenge. And when he comes in, everyone should just like wave at him. No, be nice. I'm just kidding. So I'm going to give them a chance to say a little bit more about what they do in just a second, but I wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what we want to accomplish today. We want to talk about how you build the next generation of entrepreneurs. And there are three interrelated issues that we're going to focus on. One are educational programs and what role they play. A second is talent development and the search for talent. And the third is kind of what is the role of incubators and accelerators as a means to drive those kinds of, to drive small businesses, to drive entrepreneurs. So we'll touch on all three of those things. And the goal of the session, as all of the sessions here, is it really is meant to help you, the entrepreneurs, more than anyone. So we love the investors and the entrepreneurial support organizations, but our goal is to help the entrepreneurs learn something. Hopefully we've got something that's useful to say up here, but we're also going to make sure that this is a very interactive session. And so we very much want to learn from you and help you learn from each other. So to do that, I am going away from my traditional technophobic form, and we're going to try to use this app that they have generated at, I'm sure, some great expense to do two things. One is to ask questions. So how many of you have the app? Hopefully most of you. All right. Will everyone work with me here? Come and open your app. You need to go to this session. So if you go to the agenda, go to this session. Again, building the next generation of entrepreneurship. It's session 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
So if you press on that and you get into this session, you will see that on the top there is details, which you don't need to look at anymore. There is activity. And someone has already added a lovely picture. Thank you. Thank you. Ranesh, we love you. This is where if you press the button that has a little pencil on it, you can ask questions. And so I'm going to be an amazing moderator, and I'm going to be tracking these questions along the way. Oh. So that is one way you can ask a question at any time you want, and we'll be tracking those. And panelists, you can do it too.
Where's the pencil? Oh, there it is. I see.
Upper right-hand corner is where the pencil is.
Oh, yeah.
All right? Yeah. Now, the other cool thing that we're going to be doing, well, sorry, on the questions, the other way to do that is just write a question on a piece of paper. If you don't like the app, it's not working for you. Just write it down. Just make sure I can read it. Okay? No scribbles. And we'll have runners. So if you've got a question you want to do the old-fashioned way, just hold it up, and Tanya or another colleague will come pick it up from you. Okay? So that's what we're going to try to do. And if that doesn't work, we'll find another answer. Now, the other cool thing we're going to do, besides answer questions, is we're going to do some polls. We are going to ask you some questions. Okay? So if you press the polls piece right again on the top, you will see that in a very odd order, 25431. That's some code.
It's a test.
There are a variety of questions. We may not ask all of them, but I will let you know when we're doing it. I will press the button, and you all should start answering then, and then we'll do real-time results. Right, so this is my big technological effort. Work with me. If it takes a little bit longer than normal, help us out. Does that sound cool? Okay. One last thing before we really dive in. I get to make an official announcement. Is this Casper?
Oh, bravo.
Welcome. John, welcome. We just went through all the instructions, and we decided you have to dance on stage.
All right, perfect. Break dancing, okay?
Go for it, man.
Or you could sing.
Yeah, let's do the panel first, because I might hurt myself.
So catch your breath. I will make one official announcement, and then we will get into it. The official announcement, because we're doing these today, is that as of right now, the Global Accelerator Learning Initiative is real. Now, what that is, you might ask. I am pleased to officially announce a $2.3 million investment to examine the effectiveness of incubators and accelerators all around the world. So this is a research effort which is designed specifically to understand what works and what doesn't in early stage business acceleration. We want to understand how accelerators work, what kinds of programs work best. Do they work better for certain types of populations, like younger entrepreneurs or female entrepreneurs? Do they work better in certain sectors? So this is going to be a very comprehensive 3-year project to get loads and loads of data about entrepreneurs and the accelerators in which they're in, so we can start answering this question: do accelerators work, and why? The project is led by Emory University and my organization, the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. And it is, along with incredible partners, USAID's Global Development Lab, the Omidyar Network, the Lemelson Foundation, and the Argydius Foundation. And our hope is that this set of insights that we are able to generate over the next 3 years will complement the amazing conversation that we're about to have now. All right? You can find out much more about this on the website for this conference, or if you go to andyglobal.org and you type in accelerators, you'll find more information about it as well. So thank you for joining. In fact, can we have a round of applause for that?
Yes. Absolutely.
Everyone wants to know about accelerators, but I want to know more about you, Mario. So we're going to start with you, and I've asked all of the panelists to be prepared to give a kind of 2-minute introduction of themselves, and also to answer the question, what do you wish you learned in school that would have helped you be a better entrepreneur or a better entrepreneurial support organization?
Well, I'm Mario. I'm from Catholic University of Milan, and we started 5 years ago an MBA, a special MBA, a unique MBA here in Kenya at Tangaza College. And I think that when you talk about education, coaching, and acceleration experience, our program try to join all of this, because it's an executive MBA in which you have only 40 days in 1 year in which you must be in the class. Then you have online business coach, mentors, visit to companies, and so on. So you can join all the benefits of the 3 different things, and at the end you can take a double degree from Catholic University and from the local university. And now we are in 5 countries in Africa, because we are, that means, in Ghana, 5th edition, in Kenya, 5th edition, Ghana, 3rd, Kenya, Uganda, and Ivory Coast is the 1st edition. But our goal is to scale and to have this program in 15 African countries, having a lot of economy of scale, and that's a big advantage for the university and a big advantage for the entrepreneurs, because they come into a network that will help them to also to scale the business in a Pan-African way. So I think that, well, there are a lot of services in one program.
And what did you wish you learned in school but didn't?
Well, a lot of things, because I think that it's too difficult to tell this, because I think that, well, my school, as all the schools are very theoretical, while we must always connect theory with action, and that's the best way also to learn the theory.
Great. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Suzanne.
Okay, hi, I'm Suzanne Biegel, and I wear a couple of hats, and I'm going to talk just about two of them. You mentioned that I'm Catalyst at Large, which is my consulting, but I am the investment director for a venture accelerator called Spring. And that's a project that is funded by Nike Foundation, DFID, the Department for Aid in the UK, and USAID. It's a venture accelerator which is quite unusual, first of its kind. It is focused on accelerating businesses first in East Africa and then in South Asia, businesses that positively affect the lives of adolescent girls in poverty. So these can be male or female businesses across any sector, but this is really about, can we demonstrate that there are businesses that can really scale, work as businesses, solve a social or environmental problem, and positively affect the lives of adolescent girls and help create economic assets for girls. So that's one hat, is working on investment readiness and capital raising for those ventures. The second hat is that I started and run a network of angel investors who focus on social impact and environmental impact in the UK called Clearly Social Angels. And it's part of a corporate finance advisory firm that focuses on the same thing. And we are also the partner for something called the Big Venture Challenge in the UK. So it's a similar kind of accelerator program, finding the best and brightest 100 social impact entrepreneurs across England, where we provide, again, the capital raising and really investment readiness support. So I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs really to be investment ready and to raise capital, and just in general to build their businesses. And you asked me what I wish I had learned. So I think two things, really. I wish there had been more emphasis on emotional intelligence and really hiring, managing, developing teams and partnerships. And then I think the other is really about building effective partnerships. And I think that is so critical for entrepreneurs, especially in early days, that you can't possibly do it all yourself. And to really learn how to find those partners, determine who really are the best partners, and work those relationships is absolutely key. And I don't think it's really taught that well in school.
Great. Thanks, Suzanne. Sam.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. Let me perhaps begin by explaining my hybrid accent. I was born in Maseno, Kenya, of Ugandan parents, and I lived in this country until I was about 5 years old, and then lived in Uganda for 12 years and have lived in the US for the last 40. So I come back to Kenya and Uganda quite often, and have really embraced the challenges that higher education, universities and colleges are facing today. I am a Dean of Engineering and Physical Sciences at the University of New Hampshire in the US. But again, as I just said, I spend a great deal of time, especially during the summers, back in Africa doing outreach to various institutions. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about what I do. However, let me just point out that one of my big passions right now is recognition that the way we teach engineering and physical sciences completely dissociated from development of entrepreneurial skills and also the soft skills of communication and building partnerships, as Suzanne just pointed out, is very flawed. So we have what I would characterize as a flawed approach to curriculum in the US. We do. It needs to change. And I recognize as well that we have a flawed curriculum in the way we train students at universities in sub-Saharan Africa. So the reason I was, I think, chosen to serve on this panel is essentially to emphasize the point that people getting degrees in engineering and physical sciences don't have to lose their entrepreneurial skills as they go up the ladder. I was just in Uganda a couple of days ago talking to a bunch of women in the market who are extremely entrepreneurial. And we were bemoaning the fact that they have those skills, but they are kids who've grown up with a little bit of money and therefore have received higher education training, seem to have lost that attribute. They don't know how to make businesses. They simply want the government to give them jobs. So that's a point I'm going to make over and over again. And the last thing I'm going to say is what do I wish I had learned? Well, I'll repeat myself. I wish I had learned that by getting higher education degrees, PhDs in this or that, does not need to be separated from having an entrepreneurial spirit.
Awesome. Yay.
So, hi everybody. My name is Ayman Ismail. So a bit about myself. I grew up in Egypt and I did all my education there in engineering and then business. And then I moved to the US. I lived there for 15 years. I did my PhD. I worked in consulting and started a consulting company. And until 5 years ago, actually 4.5 years ago, I didn't know how to spell the word entrepreneurship. So that's actually my confession. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know how to spell it or how to write it, where it came from. Yes, that's, thank God
it's a long word. It's a tough one.
Spell correcting your spelling is really useful. So 5 years ago exactly, I moved back to Egypt. I moved on December 25th, 2010. Exactly 4 weeks later, we had the revolution, we had a huge change. And with that, there was a lot of action on the youth side. There were many things changing. And that's when I got actually immersed in entrepreneurship, in the ecosystem, in so many different ways. So right now, I teach entrepreneurship in the American University in Cairo. We're starting new programs. We have a minor, we have a new major, we have courses for people in engineering. Actually, most of my students are from engineering. And we're trying to push that in the curricula. We also started a program to support or to help build the ecosystem, the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. And 2 years ago, I founded the AUC Venture Lab, which is an accelerator on campus. So far, we ran 4 cycles. We accelerated 32 startups. Many of them are working, generating revenue. I think they received more than 20 million pounds in funding, which is about $3 million. And all of them are really early stage startups. We're also, and most of them are not students of our university. They're from all over the country, from different socioeconomic backgrounds. In addition to that, about 12 years, me and a group of friends, we started an incubator for social enterprises, also in Egypt. And throughout that period, we've learned a lot working with social entrepreneurs, with a very broad definition for that. So that's my experience. So what would I have wanted to learn? 3 things. One is, I didn't know what entrepreneurship is. There's the inspiration part. I think there's a lot in schools for just giving people stories of entrepreneurs. We know about businessmen, business people, but we don't teach the word entrepreneurship. So stories, inspiration. The second thing is basic business illiteracy. Most people graduate from schools without knowing the basics of business. A simple course that tells you what is marketing, what is accounting, what is finance, what is operation, so that when you grow, you're ready to self-learn and grow on yourself. And the third thing is the practice, internships. At the school level, even if it's just photocopying papers in a company, you walk into a company, you know what it means to hold a job. A lot of people don't have that image of working in a place. In Egypt, it takes on average 4 years for a university graduate to get their first job. During those 4 years, they're sitting on a cafe, smoking shisha, and they're losing the work culture. They're losing the work ethic. And getting people to walk into an office and visualize what that means, I think is very inspiring. So those are 3 things I would like to have learned.
Great. I am John Harthone. I'm the founder and CEO of Mass Challenge. Mass Challenge is the largest ever startup accelerator and the first to support entrepreneurs with no strings attached. So what that means is anybody can enter from anywhere in the world with any startup in any industry. We use a competition model. So we give away $1 million per program that we run. We're based in Boston. We also just launched in the UK and London. So each of the Boston we give away $1 million. In the UK, it's £500,000. Anybody can enter from anywhere in the world. This year we had 2,300 applications from 65 countries and 40 US states. And then we narrow that down, and in each location we accept around 100 startups. So in Boston it's 128. In the UK it's 90. So we have 218 startups right now in the accelerator process. And we've graduated 617 startups over the first 5 years of our existence in Boston. And they have raised just about $1 billion in outside funding, created 5,000 jobs, and generated $450 million worth of revenue. So we're a nonprofit. We don't take any equity from the startups that we help or any fees. We don't place any restrictions on them. We leave it completely open. And our mission is to catalyze a renaissance globally by empowering the creative class of people on the planet.
Wow.
So what do I wish that, thank you.
Yeah, give the man applause.
Yeah. So, and we're expanding massively. We've started by focusing on Europe and Latin America. So we're in the UK first, but we're looking to launch in Switzerland and Berlin relatively soon, Zurich and Berlin relatively soon, and then in Mexico City and Bogota, and eventually in Brazil as well. And then we're migrating towards Middle East and Africa would be sort of next on our list, and then into Asia. And we want to be everywhere in the world within 5 years, 10 locations. So we're working pretty hard and running as fast as we can. And so what would I wish that I had learned in school? Well, I think we've gotten good at some of these things, so it's no longer like a daily burden for me not to have the knowledge. But I think that they should teach sales in schools. It's unbelievable, and everything that you do as a startup at the beginning is sales, right? Even if you're not selling the product, you're selling your employees on why they should work for you for no money, with no brand, you know, and no guarantee of any money or brand in the next 6 months, 12 months, et cetera. So you have to convince them. Also, all your partners that you form partnerships with, you have to sell them on why they should work with you. Obviously, you have to raise money. You have to get office space. You're always trying to get a discount on something because you have no money, et cetera. So sales is really critical. We got really good at it early on, so it's no longer a huge issue, but that would be really valuable. And then the other thing is hiring. Like now we're in this scaling mode where we doubled in size in the last 12 months, and hiring even 20 people, you know, we're now 40 people, we were 20 a year ago. Hiring 20 people halfway around the world is brutal. It's just so hard, and every mistake you make is incredibly expensive and wastes a huge amount of time and knowledge, and that's really challenging. So I think we still could use some knowledge on that front. We're getting better at it, but you kind of learn by making mistakes, and I wish we had been taught that earlier in school.
Awesome. All right, so we are set up to have an awesome panel, and I can just see it now. We're going to start having sales training in Egypt to young adolescent girls who become engineers and then study in Italy, because we all actually want to study in Italy. But before I go to questions to the panelists, I'm going to you. So it's time for the app. Poll question number 1, which oddly enough is at the bottom of the list. What training mattered more to you as an entrepreneur? And if you press on number 1, you'll see the possible answers. Of course, I can't get access right now. One says formal training, and one says learning on the job. So I want to take 30 seconds to a minute. Let's say 30 seconds, because you guys are brighter than I am.
It's pretty quick.
Okay, we only got 4 people taking it. Come on, you guys can figure this out. Or is it not working? 14 responses. All right, real time.
Service.
Wow. We're going to give a few more seconds. 15 responses. This is going to be tough for you educators.
On the job.
I didn't want it to be 100%. We can stop there. 96% said on-the-job training, which probably means 2 people, 1 person actually, said formal education. So let's go to those of you who are educators. What is the most successful formal educational model, if any, that you've seen for entrepreneurs?
Well, you know, I just voted as well, and I voted for on-the-job training. And the reason I did is, just like my colleagues pointed out, I think it's really important when you're at school to get exposed to the theory on just about everything. But until you've actually had the chance to practice that theory embedded within the culture of a given company, you really cannot appreciate what it means. So to me, this is sort of a false choice, because I think that the necessary background to understanding the theory, one of my colleagues just said, wish we had learned about sales. I absolutely agree. That is something that you could at least get the fundamentals of when you're still at university, but then you become embedded in a company and see exactly how it's practiced there. And the way it's practiced in company A is not necessarily the way it's going to be practiced in company B. So, a culture indoctrination within a particular company is absolutely essential, and you will not get that at university. You get that in a company.
So, all right, so Mario, are you going to justify the educational infrastructure?
I think that you learn when you have a question. You learn when you have a need, when you are waiting for something. That's very important. And that's, for this reason, our idea is we admit only people with a business idea, with a business to be developed. So when the course is about the marketing course, they just want to understand how to apply this to their business. What's the meaning of this? And there is nothing abstract at that moment, because all become relevant just because you have a need. And so the problem is good to have a good theory, but the problem is the environment in which you suggest this. So, for example, our exams is just the application, the use of the theory in your business. And the main goal of the MBA is the success of your business. So the problem is this. Because if you don't have any question, all the things that I can give you are not relevant for you.
Okay.
Can I add something? I would agree with the 2 points, but let me just make a straight point. Most of our formal education is damn boring. Students are dying to death when they sit in a classroom and listen to me. So how do you actually get them interested? So I teach an entrepreneurship class to graduating seniors. Most of them at the beginning, first time it was offered before I joined, they had to cancel the course because nobody subscribed. Right now, we have next semester 7 sections, each with 40 students. At the end, I think about 10% of the university students are going to be taking that course. What's the difference? I walk into class and I tell them, here's a story about someone that you know who graduated from this same university. 10 years later, he sold his company for 836 million Egyptian pounds, about $130 million. Wow. Okay, this guy did a marketing project in a course, and he started the first ISP business in Egypt, and then he sold it after actually 3 years ago, and they know him. Sometimes he comes to speak in my class. Now they're listening because they are graduating next semester. They're thinking about their career decisions. They're all rebellious. They hate school. They want to do something different. They don't like us as teachers, and they're bored. So you have to actually get them interested. If you don't get them interested, you don't have anything to sell. After that, it's a simple story. Yeah. They're interested, start your business, now how do we do it? And that's a different story.
So let me thank you, Hannah, for this question. Let me take a question from the audience. Nice. So Hannah asks for Sam, but I'm going to make it broader. How do you keep the entrepreneurship spirit up in higher education? Probably because it's so boring. Is this best done by incorporating it into the formal training curriculum, or through extracurricular experience? And I would add, just to push you, with 93%, why go to university at all? Why not do it entirely separately? So at least within a university, how do you keep it up? Yeah. Inside or as extracurricular? And really pushing, is in universities the right place to learn?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try and keep my words very short so that the rest of my colleagues can also have a chance to speak. But when we talk about entrepreneurship, there are various levels. I opened with my remarks about talking to market women in Uganda a couple of days ago. They are entrepreneurs. But if we want to create wealth in a nation, we have to consider some higher forms of entrepreneurship. And when we talk about higher levels of entrepreneurship, I want my countries, my African countries, Kenya, Uganda, and others, to be at the table when we're talking about, say, high-precision machining, when we're talking about developing supply chains for the aerospace industry. There is nothing to prevent a university-trained graduate from Nairobi or from Makerere University in Uganda to participate to the same degree in the high-tech industry as a person who graduated from an Asian university or even an American university for that matter. So when you say, is university the place to do it? Yeah, some areas of entrepreneurship require that you've developed skills that are best transmitted at university. But if you want to, sell certain things in the market or even selling cars for that matter, you can cram and learn what a car does and so on. You don't need a university degree and be a very successful entrepreneur. But I think for a successfully integrated economy, we have to play at all levels of what is described as, or is defined as entrepreneurship. So universities have a role to play. Not exclusively, but I think they're very important to be in the mix.
Suzanne wanted to add. And then
Yeah, well, nobody's talked about technology yet, so I did want to just introduce the idea of e-learning and blended learning. And I built a business. That's how I wound up as an investor in the e-learning space. And this was in the 80s and 90s. And really, the idea was, to your point, you have the most appetite to learn when you're in that moment when you have that particular need, right? And so I think now we have the benefit of so many tools, so many online tools. How many of you have heard about the African Management Initiative, AMI? So this is a new online platform which is doing business training that is blended learning, so online and offline, for business skills. And I think that people being able to, in your positions, take advantage of that real-time, just-in-time learning, that when you now have something that you haven't faced before, so you now have an operational challenge or an accounting challenge or sales or marketing, whatever it might be, and you say, okay, now I feel the need to know about this, that you can take advantage of online. It's not to say that online is a panacea. It's just to say that for sort of 21st century learning, it needs to be peer-to-peer, it needs to be formal, it needs to be informal, it needs to be on the job, and it can be supported by technology. And I think if we're using our creativity for so many other things, this is another place where we should be using our creativity.
John?
So I'm going to defend formal education here. I'm speaking to the 4% of you that believe that it's valuable.
Got up to 7%, so
yeah,
you got a huge support base.
No, and I do agree that obviously it has to be done in a more blended approach. I think that the old school style of just lecture in front of a large classroom is not effective, it's boring, and it's hard to learn, so that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. But I think a couple of educational models that I've seen that work really well, so I'm an MIT graduate, and MIT has a phenomenal approach to this. Yeah, MIT love in the house, all right? And part of that is born out of the fact that it's primarily, starts as it's a technology school, so it's a lot of engineering mentality, and it's very lab-based, right? Like you learn science in the lab, applying it not just in the textbook. You do both. But even on the management side, they do it as a lab-based learning approach. So I had a class called, I was in a class called G-Lab, Global Entrepreneurship Lab, and what you do is you get paired with the CEO of a global organization. In our case, it was a nonprofit that was doing work in Ghana, and you help them to solve a major challenge that they're having. His was this fundraising cycle, and he came to us and said, I want you to create a business plan for me to launch a chocolate company that will generate revenue for my nonprofit. And our first response was, you shouldn't do this. So like that, you were done. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. But he made us do it. We went through it anyway. We built him the plan, and then it eventually failed, and he realized that we were right, because it has nothing to do with his business, but it's a long story. Anyway, but we learned a huge amount working on it, because you work directly with the CEO. We were in Ghana for a month. We saw the program and how it operates. We understood really closely the challenge and the complexity of his fundraising and how we might be able to help. So getting that practical experience was super valuable. It was also fun. It made it interesting. We cared a lot about getting the right answer. And they do that in many other classes like that. And they actually had implemented a sales class just as I was leaving. And you have to actually raise money or sell something as part of it. So adding the application element to the classroom element, hugely valuable and fun. Also, to the original question, I think was about, in part, extracurricular activities. And I would say one of the best parts of my MIT experience was all the extracurricular stuff and running clubs. Like I ran a conference called the GSW, the Global Startup Workshop, and we had to like secure a team of students to build the agenda, get all the speakers, sell tickets, find the venue, all of that stuff, and we paid them $0. So you have to figure out, how do I motivate people to do work for me for pizza and beer, right? And and then to get really quality output, because I'm on the hook to put on a great conference and we have to raise $500,000. And so I learned a huge amount from that is actually more valuable to me than almost anything I learned in the classroom. But it augmented, I used a lot of the like pricing techniques I would learn in economics class. Then I would go and try it for real in a real practical application and see what works about it and what doesn't, et cetera. So the mixed approach is great. Also, Northeastern, I'll put out a shout for Northeastern, has a great program. It's a co-op program where you study a semester, then you work a semester, study a semester, work a semester. And they produce phenomenal, like half my staff is Northeastern grads because they understand how to work in a business before they graduate, and they're really good.
So if I kind of draw this section to a little bit of a close before we move on, what I think I'm hearing, and I certainly agree with, is if you as an entrepreneur are thinking about getting more skills, what you shouldn't do is go to a traditional formal educational program. No one likes that. There are some formal education programs that have embedded e-learning and incredible entrepreneurial experiences and extracurricular activities and sort of real-time learning through practicums. That's the kind of thing that you want to do. But run like crazy from a traditional thing where you're just sitting in a classroom. That is not going to work for the profession, for the avocation or the vocation, whatever you're calling yourself. What you have chosen in life, that's not the way to go. Any disagreement? Because we could do.
No, I mean, I would say I think if it's not available to you to have that sort of more workshop-oriented learning, you can just do it on your own, right? So if your only choice is to go to a classroom like lecture setting, then just apply it immediately outside of class on some kind of a business or start a club, run some kind of an organization or program so that you get experience. And one of the things that's nice about the clubs is that the cost of failure is low, right? If I screw up a conference at school, it's not the end of the world. Now I've got 40 employees that count on me for our business to run properly. So having learned to avoid mistakes then is saving me a lot of trouble and a lot of people a lot of trouble and money now. So let's, thank you for that. Let's talk about talent. You're all, aspiring or existing or successful entrepreneurs. We know that it's hard, and so I want to go back to you, the audience. Question number 2, what's the hardest position for your company to hire? And you'll see there are a number of choices. Oh, interesting. We're going to let one more update. Wow. It's not what I expected. Okay, 22 responses. Number 1 was operations manager at 41%. Number 2 is sales manager at 32%. And what I thought was going to be number 1 was a finance manager at 18%. So really interesting to just get this information. But I want to use it to sort of launch a conversation about how do you actually both find and once you found them, train them. What I believe, having worked with entrepreneurs around the world, is that it is particularly challenging for all of these to find mid and upper level management talent, either to find or build it. And so I'm intrigued to hear what the panel has to say about how you do that effectively, particularly in emerging markets with a lot of competition for that kind of talent. Suzanne, do you want to start on that one? No? Ayman?
Okay, so let me give you an example. From my university, we're a very small university, but we graduate many students that are very well trained, and they usually go into corporate jobs. The usual Procter & Gamble, Schlumberger, IBM, whatever you name it. Many of them right now are thinking about startups. And I'll give you an example of Ahmad Zahran. He's a friend of mine who started a company in the solar energy. And right now, I think he has more than 30 employees. The company 2 years old, and they're well-funded, and he's attracting very, very high quality talent. How is he doing it? First thing, his company is cool. When you look at it, they work on solar panels in agriculture. They started a campus in the deserts. They built a whole new building that was solar powered. They go and they do the retreats there. They go and they work there. They don't have hierarchy. The culture is cool. They work together. They learn. And that is an amazing place for people, young people, to be in. Yeah. They love it. They talk to their friends. Their friends are excellent recruits. So one, you have to be cool. You're not the old, boring culture of a big corporate, at least in the mind of someone who's starting. Second thing, you have to get broad experience. You get into a corporate job, you're pigeonholed in a very specific function because it's a big structure, it's a big hierarchy. Here, you get exposed to many different things. You get to see the operations and the finance and the technology and the business. You go work on different dimensions. People love the exposure. It builds their career much faster. 3, it's a fast track. You get into a corporate track, you go up very slowly. Here, companies growing, people see the growth. They know that if you join at this point, you're going to be at a higher level a year or 2 down the road. 4, you build the brand and the reputation about all of these things, and you market them through the word of mouth, through social media, through creating that image. He's done that. Right now, a lot of people want to work in that company. And I think that's the essence, the competitive advantage of a startup in attracting and retaining talent compared to a large corporate versus money of a large corporate.
Yeah. But so let's play with that question. I will come back. I want to pick on this operations point for a second. But this is a huge challenge for any entrepreneurial firm that's trying to get upper-level talent, right? And I want to push you and get other answers because some companies probably can't be that cool. What if you're in agriculture, right? And you're an agricultural cooperative that's entrepreneurial. It might be finding some new markets, but at least by its nature, you're going to have to add a lot to make it considered cool, I think particularly in many African environments where that's what they know already. So how are you going to get the top-level operations manager when you've got all these agribusinesses that are global corporations running around? Suzanne, can you answer that?
Well, I mean, I can speak from my own experience having built a company from 7 people to 200. And for us, it was very much about the respect internally and externally, the passion, no matter what we were doing, whether we're working on something really exciting or something actually not as exciting, that people brought to collaboration. And that word got out, that we were a place where you could be creative, you knew that your voice would be heard, you knew that you'd be respected, that it was a place where you would learn internally, and that we actually did a very good job of external PR, not just because that was helping us attract clients, but it was and finance, but also it was really helping us attract employees. And so we had phenomenal employee retention. We also had really sort of significantly lower cost in recruiting because we were also really known as a socially responsible business. So we were very committed around environmental and social principles in how we ran the business. That word got out, and that was something that really attracted people to our business. And I don't really know that it's that different now. Whatever kind of business you're running, people will think about, is this a place that I can see myself? And is there a bigger vision? We were really about really helping people learn and do whatever they did better. And we had such a bigger vision than kind of just being a training company that people were really attracted to being the best place anyone could work, having it be the best work in the industry, and really having it be the most fun as well.
You want to comment?
Just a little experience from Italian situation, because we have so many family business that has the same problem, how to involve the managers in the business. And I think that the first element is the clarity of the governance of the company. That's very, very important. And the rules among the founder and, let me say, the son, the daughters, and so on. That's very, very important. And then the rules about the system for decisions, the decision system. Because it must be clear that these people are going to take the power inside the organization in a very effective way. And that's very important for all our businesses, and I think that is the same for businesses that want to grow.
If I can, I don't know if we have a microphone in the audience. I want somebody who put down operations manager who is an entrepreneur to stand up so I can pick on them. This gentleman right here. So, a microphone's coming. So first of all, you're having trouble finding an operations manager, I assume. Yeah. Did their answers resonate for you? Be a cool company, be a collaborative company, have good corporate governance. Are those answers that are going to help solve your problem, do you think?
Yeah, very much so. Thank you. My name is Rinesh Desai. I'm a chairman at Hypercube Hub. We're located in Harare, Zimbabwe. And from an operational point of view, it's been our biggest challenge. Trying to translate board objectives and board strategy into the actual day-to-day running of the space, into day-to-day establishment of the organization, try to sort of create an institution. We've only been in business 18 months. It's incredible how the smallest changes can make such a big impact going further down the way if you're not taking care of things at an operational level in terms of day-to-day activities. That's something we've learned very quickly, actually.
And specifically, though, as it relates to trying to find the managers to be good operational managers, why is that so hard?
Attention to detail, probably?
Just in that, in your country, people don't like details.
I'm sure it applies in a number of.
So I have a couple of thoughts on this. One is that I would say this is something that I learned about HR, having to do it and make a bunch of mistakes first, is personality typing is really helpful, right? So for an operations person, you need somebody who's just logical and organized and structured in their mind, that's not something that necessarily is taught. It's something that they're just naturally that person. And so we do that, especially for operations versus sales. Sales, we typically want somebody who's more charismatic, spontaneous, kind of funny, playful, not as structured necessarily. But for the ops side, you need somebody who just eats, sleeps, and breathes organization and structure. So that's one way to sort of just typecast the right person. And then I think for the sales pitch to them, it is, as everybody has said here, it's about being cooler. You have to basically offer something qualitative, something other than money. I think actually, like, money is a really bad motivator. So most people, and what happens if you're attracting people by motivating them with money, you end up with Wall Street. You end up with a financial collapse and a catastrophe because that's all that they care about. What you really want to attract people with is values. Like, what do they actually love about the world, and how can you offer them that thing? If they love community and friendship, then have a friendly work environment where they can feel like they're part of a family, they're part of a small group. And you'd be amazed at how these qualitative things, people will take a 50% pay cut in order to satisfy their soul. And I think that's what startups are all about, is startups have soul. And corporations are just money-making machines where you get a number in a cell or a cubicle, right, where you have to sit and just push a button all day, and it's soulless, it's empty. And so those people are maybe making money, but your pitch of we're a fun place to work, it's interesting, or maybe it's about environmental impact, like we have values that resonate with your values, that's, I think, where you make the sale. And then you're selling specifically to somebody who's hyper-organized for the operations side.
So, Ayman?
Yes. So, two specific comments. One on the ranking. I think that makes absolute sense. For a startup, your biggest challenge is execution. Usually the fundraising and the finance is handled by the entrepreneur, the CFO. You don't need a dedicated person until you really grow. If you can't execute, you don't have a product, you don't have anything. So that's number one. Number two, you have a product, now you've got to sell it. If you can't sell it, you don't have money. And I think that's right on the mark at the beginning. So getting to your initial question, if you're not cool, how can you attract someone? Something that worked with me, I don't know if that would work with other people, you find someone who's on the same track, but they're 2 or 3 levels below what you're looking for in a big company. You give them 3 bumps up. So I would go for the title and the prestige, but keep the same salary. A lot of people in a corporate career would take them 10 to 15 years because it's clogged up there. My director has not retired, and I have to wait for him till he's 60 or 70 until I take his place. You go to another place, get someone who's younger. I did this before, and the guy came to me and said, but I want the salary of a director. I told him, I'm hiring you with the title of a director, but you have the salary of an entry level because you don't have the experience, but I'm going to give you that title after 3 years. When you go to the next company, you're going to actually go into that position. So I'm putting you on the fast track, so bear with me on the cost, but you take the privilege and the ownership of the other. Second thing is giving people a sense of ownership. You own this thing, run it. If it breaks, it's yours. So I'm not gonna come after you with hours 9 to 5, I don't care. You own it, you sleep 24 hours working for this, you don't sleep, I don't care. I want this thing done. And those are my 2 things that I would actually go for.
Okay, we're going to do Suzanne. You wanted to speak?
Yeah, just super quickly. We were also radically generous with colleagues in other companies in the search for talent. So if I found somebody that I thought was a really strong candidate, I would share. And we didn't have a role for them, I would share. And that came back to us threefold. And so we were very involved in kind of we created an industry association. I started a group that was Women in Technology in the 90s. And just by being out there and really kind of connecting with other competitors, friendly allies, et cetera, then really we were all searching for talent. And so the idea of looking at the whole pool and being really radically generous, that can really come back to you.
Okay, so then we're going to do Sam and then Alon.
Okay, I just wanted to make one little point. At the risk of getting thrown off this stage by the moderator, I'm going to disagree about the cool versus uncool.
Please disagree.
Okay, so you picked on agriculture as being uncool. I can't think of anything cooler than agriculture.
Ooh. All right, wait, quick survey. Be honest here. How many think, just on the face of it, agriculture is cool? Okay, how many think it's not so cool?
Let me tell you why it's cool.
Wow. Shut down. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so right now on this continent, we have something like 1 billion inhabitants. In a short few decades, we're going to have 2 billion inhabitants. The food production efficiency, the efficiency with which we're producing food today is not going to support 2 billion people. So that if you're thinking ahead, I can't think of any better opportunities than getting involved with mechanized agriculture, especially when you consider that something like 60% of the uncultivated arable land on the planet is on this continent. Okay, so it's really cool.
All right. I'm going to have to go off the stage. Alon, I know you're cool, so what do you have to offer here?
Just a question and maybe a comment. The whole thing about offering the coolness of it, and also offering all the values, etc., and people coming at half their salary, that only works for a while. My experience around that is that it works for maybe 3 months, 6 months, maybe if you're lucky 12 months, and then their reality kicks in, their family puts pressure on them, and they start looking for a normal job again, and you lose them again. The second point I just want to ask is around when you're in a skills shortage space, does the attraction for skills still work in, in the UK, in let's say first world, and even more of the developed third world countries, I can see it. But in some very underdeveloped spaces where there are no skills or very little skills, then that's a huge issue to find these skills. And my last question to you is around, I'm hearing blended. About 5 years ago, it was e-learning. Yeah. Is the whole industry recoiling a bit to the middle?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we want to spend a lot of time on this, but in terms of blended learning, I think we figured out quite a long time ago that different people learn in different ways, and that different situations demand different solutions. And there became this kind of infatuation with online learning as the panacea, like this is how we're going to train 1 billion people. But it's never actually been a good idea to have a pure e-learning solution. So I just think what's coming out now is something that we kind of knew 20 years ago. But it's just people are realizing it now. Should we move on?
In a second. With logistics moments. First of all, I want to thank all of you who are writing questions and comments. There are some questions here which I believe that you as entrepreneurs and participants in the audience can probably answer better than some of us. So don't hesitate to answer the other questions that you see. I also will make a point there are going to be some questions to each of you individually that I won't get to about like how to apply for programs and things like that. Please come back and answer those when you're done. I wanted to give a little kind of summary point here, which is some of the things I heard, it's titles are cheap, y'all. You can give a title for nothing. Now, there may be some emotional issues associated, but it doesn't cost anything financially. That's a really important tool. Ownership. being collaborative, sharing, right? The generosity and creating that environment can be very attractive to people. And I think, Don, your point is quite important about really understanding personality types. And if I could broaden that a bit and throw in a little bit of my advice as the former VP of people of a startup, I think that startup companies typically underinvest in the human resource function. Now, you may not be able to hire someone early on, but you as the founder need to get good at it. And I'm willing to bet that many of you have also not gotten training in human resources, which is also something which is very under-taught in formal education. So think about that. That's something you can learn on your own, and it's something that is going to help you overcome what is, I believe at least, the most critical challenge which faces most small business entrepreneurs in emerging markets. It's not money, it's talent. And we as entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial support organizations need to get better at helping entrepreneurs do a better job at cultivating, building, supporting, paying for, and otherwise helping the talent that they have within their organizations. And with that, we're going to start talking about accelerators who should be able to help you with that, at least the good ones. One of the services that accelerators often provide is helping you find the talent to build out your teams. But let's start with a poll question, a simple one, which is how many of you, it's number 3, have attended an incubation or acceleration program? So I just want to know how many of you have done that. Huh, not that many.
Do you guys have a question in the back, or are you voting with your hand?
We got to use the app
Trying
to
to
vote.
capture it on the app. You got to vote on the app.
Come on, you techno lovers. I still own a BlackBerry, and I'm proud of it.
Oh, it's not working on everybody's.
Oh, not everyone can't do it?
Don't penalize them because they can't see it.
Oh.
So be nice to them. Yep.
Bummer. I didn't design the app.
Just do a quick show of hands.
Yeah, we can just do a show of hands. Maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're getting mostly no. I mean, for those of you that can, so let's go ahead and do the show of hands. How many have actually been in accelerators? All right. So for all of you that keep your hands up, how many of you thought that it worked? Okay. So about half of you. 60% of you. For those of you who can, that's actually the next question on the poll. And so I'm really interested because right now, the default answer in the world to how do you best support entrepreneurs is build an accelerator. And I am on the record saying that I think incubators and accelerators are popping up like beautiful Texas wildflowers, unlike beautiful Texas wildflowers, which are beautiful and bring in millions and millions of dollars in tourism to my beautiful home state. We don't know if accelerators work. So some of you run accelerators. Are you sure your accelerator works? What do you think is good about your accelerator? Make the case for why accelerators are everyone's favorite solution right now to supporting entrepreneurship.
All right, I'll take a crack at this. So I definitely think Mass Challenge works. Definitely works. But I think the typical accelerator model is kind of broken, and I think most accelerators do not work or only provide some benefit, but not as much as they're like suboptimal. And one of the big challenges with that is that most accelerators are run on an investment model. They're run by investors, and frankly, they're run for investors, not for startups. So they're basically extracting an unfair deal from a easy to victimize population of early stage startups that are desperate for support, growth, connectivity, and resources. And so they're preying upon this population. I think it's like actually a predatory model, and I don't like it at all. And I think that there's a whole bunch of implications of that, because if it's an investor-driven model, then I can only really support software, webby, mobile startups because they're low cost and they turn quickly. And I have to fit my accelerator program to a fund cycle, which is typically a 10-year cycle, so I have to be able to exit these companies quickly to recover money so that I can pay off my investors, who are my real customers, not the startups. And that means that you can only support a certain population, where what about nonprofits? What about pharmaceutical startups? What about clean tech startups? They all have the potential for significant impact on the world, but they don't fit easily into this model. And it's not in the model's interest to actually support all the entrepreneurs, because they only care about the one or two that they think are going to return value.
But I want to push back, because in emerging markets, at least, there are very few models that are actually investor-driven.
Yeah.
Okay.
The investors they don't believe in them yet.
Yeah, so that's good, because I think the investor-driven model doesn't work well. I also think the corporate-led model is not optimal, but is a little bit better. But the challenge is that you only end up working with one set of resources and partner. You're sort of, pigeonholing yourself and your partner opportunities for the future. So, but I think our model is significantly better in that we don't take any equity, so it's free for the startups. It's very competitive, so it's difficult to get in. We had 2,300 applications, and only 218 will enter into the accelerator. So we're filtering for quality and for commitment. But I think what we do that is valuable, here's the thing. This is like the premise on which we're based. As an early stage startup, let's say we have a brilliant idea in our basement, it's 2 or 3 of us, we've never done this before, we're going to need to get lawyers to help us incorporate and divide up equity, or figure out, are we breaking any laws? If it's a new innovative idea, we might be at odds with some regulations, we have to understand that. And then we're going to need to find investors to put money in, we're going to need to talk to customers to figure out the revenue model, we're going to need all sorts of it, we're going to have to develop a logo, a brand, a name, we're going to have to register that, maybe trademark it, we need to get business advice on, is our strategy sound? Are we targeting the right customer? So there's like just dozens of people that we're going to need to find to get advice or support from them, probably 30, 40 people. And for most early stage startups, like, you don't know who those people are. You don't even know which aspects of that you need. You might not even know you need lawyers for a while. So a lot of this you're going to stumble over along the way, and it's going to take 12 to 18 months just to meet those people. And then you have to convince them to help you, even though you have no money, no brand, no real results, because you're so early. And so it can take 18, 24 months to finally secure that support. And most of us will give up by then, because we run out of money or noodles and have to go back to our day job to actually make some income and survive. And so that huge process is a massive delay, this hunt for resources. So what we do is we've already aggregated all of those people. So when you get accepted, we just say, they're right there. Here's the best lawyers in Boston. There's the best investors in Boston. These are the best mentors and advisors on all of the various topics that you need. And so we can just shrink that process down from 24 months down to 2 or 3 months. And you get rapid access to those people. And that is a huge advantage.
So Suzanne, I want you to say what you want to say, but also, speak from the voice of someone that's in Botswana sometimes and not Boston. There are not that many people there. So how does this translate to an emerging market context?
So one of the things we're doing on Spring is we're developing a base of resources that are both local and global. And we're bringing in corporates. So we have a law firm partner, which is Hogan Lovells, and they have both developed market and developing market resources. We're bringing in the resources of cashed out entrepreneurs who want to give back. And we are basically doing a diagnostic with people, everyone who comes through our accelerator, to really understand what their needs are and what they know their needs are and what they don't know what their needs are, by really going through an iterative process and a very human-centered design process. So really helping understand who are their users, who are their stakeholders, what are they trying to accomplish in the world, what are their barriers, where are the stumbling blocks, and then going and really aggregating across our whole cohort to say, gee, there's 6 different ventures out of 18 that all need CRM systems that do different things but have some commonalities, or they all need HR advice because they're in hiring and firing situations that they are challenged with. And then we're basically really amplifying what we're looking for with a community. So we're building an ecosystem of support around our entrepreneurs and around our program that we can bring to bear. And it's not, we are also using a human-centered design approach to designing our accelerator, because for us, we know that there are things that we're going to need to tweak as we go. But really, in every market, you've got to be able to say, are there people here who know about this? And if they're not here, are they sitting in the diaspora? So there's somebody, I just met this amazing guy from Rwanda who lives in Luxembourg. He's giving back to one of our companies in Rwanda. Transformational Business Network and a whole host of others, Mara Mentor, which just launched, are now coming through with resources of people who want to get engaged. And it's about being really explicit about to those potential resources to understand what they have to bring, and that their expertise and their experience and their sort of orientation, and then being really explicit with the entrepreneurs to say, what do you really need? And maybe they don't know exactly what they need, but helping them through an iterative process to figure that out.
Ayman.
Okay, so I think I'm not going to actually defend accelerators. I think it's a bit of a nuanced answer. The question is, what are you trying to accomplish from your accelerator? There is some idea that there is a cookie cutter program accelerator that you put it. It's kind of the sausage factory. You bring youth and you put them here, and then you get startups at the other side. And if you build 20 of those, it's a factory approach, kind of 19th century mechanical approach. Yeah. And if you build enough of them, you're going to get an entrepreneurial culture. I don't think there's a more stupid idea than this. Okay?
Yeah, you're really not defending accelerators.
No, I'm not. No, but here's the point. If you are designing an acceleration program and you know who's your target customer, and it's different between Boston and Cairo and Rwanda and Botswana and Nairobi, and if you're delivering a program that will help them get from point A to B, and you know what point A looks like and what point B looks like, and you're thoughtful about your design, your accelerator will work. That's a very simple concept of a business. You know your customer. Who's your customer? Are you targeting youth? Are you targeting experienced, seasoned executives? Are you targeting people who are well-educated out of Ivy League in Boston or MIT? Or are you targeting people who are trying to work on a microfinance agricultural project? You cannot provide the same solution. So it's about designing the solution that fits with the context. The generic solution doesn't work. So,
and the peer-to-peer thing, because so many of the entrepreneurs in our program and Unreasonable and Village Capital,
the 550
other accelerators, if you really can facilitate it in the right way and create that context, then they can help each other.
But how, and I apologize if you're not, well, you go first, then I'm going to ask another question about that.
Yeah. Please. No, just a little observation, because it's interesting that our program is complementary with the accelerator, because sometimes the people from the accelerator ask us to come and have a more formal education. That's a very important thing to understand what people in the acceleration program are expecting. Obviously, some of the people that are from our master then goes to the accelerator. No? So I think that really there is a strict connection between the need of education and the need of networking and other services that the acceleration gives.
So let me, and thanks, this is drawing on some of the audience questions, so I'm going to put two in one. If you're going to give advice to some of the entrepreneurs here, what would you look for specifically in an accelerator so that they can be a good purchaser of that experience? And related to that, what is it that you all are actually measuring to show that you are successful? Because I've not met one accelerator manager that said, our accelerator isn't successful. So, and I realize that might be different, but what specifically are you using for your accelerators to say that you're effective or not? And then what advice would you give to the entrepreneurs who are thinking about it? What should they be looking at? Go ahead, Ayman.
I'll go ahead and... Sure. First thing, for an entrepreneur, it's about fit. So an accelerator might be targeting idea stage, early stage, growth stage. Are you on the same stage? The industry, is it tech, is it agri, whatever. So is it targeting the same industry? The types of people that go there, do they fit with your culture, your background? Are they in the same level of socioeconomic, educational background that you would fit with them? If these things are there, go. But if there's a mismatch between who you are and the accelerators, then probably you're not going to have the most productive experience. And just a side comment, I'm seeing a lot of what people call accelerator hopping, people going and competition hopping, people calling themselves entrepreneurs and going from a competition to the other, winning awards, and they're not really doing a business. And it's becoming very fashionable, especially in places that have many programs that offer free money. I'm very much against free money, especially substantial amounts. Small seed amounts maybe, but substantial amounts is not. A lot of people are just hopping, making it a business to fundraise and to claim to be entrepreneurs rather than actually working hard on their own business. So that's about the accelerator. What do we measure? Survival rates, investments, revenue, and job created after however long we can track them and remain with them. So right now we're tracking people who graduated from a year ago, and we're trying to look at those 4 metrics.
Okay. John, same questions. And then we'll come
Cool. So we give away free money, and I'm in favor of it. I understand the comment there, but I think for us, the free money is a marketing tactic that gets applications, and it's not the main value. And we tell people very explicitly when they get in, we give away $1 million total per program. So in Boston, it's $1 million, and about typically 16 teams will split it. 4 get 100 grand, and 12 get 50 grand. But it's at the end of the program. So there's 128 startups that are going through the accelerator, and only some of them will get that money, and they get all the value along the way before we distribute the money. So then the money, we are very clear with people that the money is not that significant. I mean, for a high growth startup in the Boston ecosystem, $100,000 is not a game changing amount of money, right? They're going to need to raise generally at least $3 to $5 million, some of them 20 million or more. So it's more about legitimacy, that you won an award, and that actually brings in investment from the rest of the community. So we use the same metrics as well as satisfaction with Mass Challenge. So our teams have raised $1 billion in 5 years, which is very, very good. In outside capital, we've given away $5 million. So you can see our money doesn't matter, right? But our money is a catalyst that activates the other money from the ecosystem. So they've raised $1 billion. They've created over 5,100 jobs and generated $450 million in revenue. And their satisfaction rating for Mass Challenge is higher than Apple customers express for Apple products and Amazon customers express for Amazon. So that's why I think it works, but I agree that it doesn't have to work, and I agree that there's a proliferation of these models, most of which aren't that functional and are a distraction. We are very focused on it's a startup competition, right? It's not a business plan. Like we never need to see a plan, right? We never ask for that. It's about like, what are you executing in your business? What are your key goals? Are you raising money? Are you trying to hire a team? Are you trying to develop your product, sell to customers, et cetera? And we look for tangible output, and that's what we teach and push for rather than hypothetical stuff.
Suzanne, what do you measure, and what's your advice?
Okay, so I'll start with the advice. So one is, what do you really need? It's just reiterating that, right? So I just advised somebody who's on Spring to say yes to an acceleration program that was going to give them the one thing that our accelerator couldn't. So very specific curriculum design for an early childhood learning company where they were going to get that deep education expertise from that one other program. So if you can be specific about what it is you really need, and then look at that accelerator and say, do they really have it? The second thing is look at the quality of their mentors and their coaches and their experts. So do they have experienced entrepreneurs? Do they have experienced business people who have built businesses? So we're lucky enough to have partners Growth Africa and Incomico here in Kenya and Rwanda, where they really have quality people who know these kinds of businesses in these specific markets. So that's the second thing, is look at the quality of the people they have around them. And really make the assessment about, for what you need, is that accelerator really going to provide that? And how do we measure our success? So we are both teaching our entrepreneurs about impact measurement, and then we're using it on ourselves. And so we're basically saying, how would we gauge the quality of the experience by what they tell us, what they came in wanting to know, what they leave each part of our program, really what was most valuable, what was least valuable. Of course, it's going to be capital raised, but it's also, can they really articulate their value proposition? Were they able to pivot in some way that was really relevant to their business and their product, their service, their marketing, something about how they view their target audience? Are we really both? So are we getting good marks from them in terms of the experience? Are they able to, of course, raise capital, build their business? So we're going to look at revenue growth. We're going to look at impact. And we're lucky enough to have the resources to actually be doing a longitudinal study with some of our ventures about not only can they grow their business, can they grow it profitably, but can they solve the social or environmental problem that they're aiming for? And then can they really have the girl impact that we're going for? And so it's too soon to tell, for us, but we are looking at every single thing we do. We, just like we're teaching them to be relentlessly customer focused, we are asking them and we're watching them to say, what was valuable here, what wasn't valuable, how should we pivot? So that's a human-centered design approach to our own program.
Let me ask my academic players, Mario, Sam, what do you guys think of accelerators? Are they useful? Are they just good marketing?
Well, good question. But again, I see questions like this as, it's a false choice. I think that there are situations where accelerator is extremely useful. I have, for example, been watching what is happening in the academic world in places like China for the last 27, 28 years that I've been going to China. And I've watched their education system in engineering evolve from one of, great deal of cramming and taking exams and getting very good grades, but coming out the other end and really not having very many marketable skills to start a company. I was in an accelerator in China 2 months ago in Wuhan, and watched these new students undergoing this training and taking initiatives themselves. I couldn't think of a better experience for a student who is about to graduate and is thinking about starting businesses to be in. So to me, there are cases where I think that this is a very good concept, a very good way to start. But there are situations where my colleagues have used the word cookie cutter. It should not be a cookie cutter approach and think that it's going to work in every situation. So Mario.
Yeah. Well, my opinion is positive, no? Because I think also some experience that we have in Italy, and I think that there are 3 elements that are really very, very important. The first is what you mentioned about the quality of mentors. And I think also thinking to the situation here, it's very important, both the local mentors, both some international mentors, because the 2 different kind of mentors give really different kind of value to the entrepreneurs. Then I think that the quality of specialistic services, because we need some very specialistic services to be given to the entrepreneurs, and obviously networking.
Okay. So, I wonder if we have time for this. Just for the heck of it, there were a few people who did the survey that said they had done an accelerator, but it was not at all helpful. Could I get one of you to raise your hands? This gentleman right here. Can we get him a microphone? Yeah, just pass it back. Perfect. Can you say your name?
Thank you. My name is Elias.
Elias. And say why. What was the problem?
Two problems. I do live in the United States, and I also live in Africa. 2 cultures, 2 different exposures. If you give an incubation by an American mindset, it will backfire. Because the person you are telling, the person you are showing, does not conceptualize what you're doing. I want to ask the 2 brothers, the 2 teachers, allow me to professors call you teachers. They have lived in the West and they have lived in Africa. These 2 men, they do understand the problem. Now, I am not saying my American friends do not understand. They do understand the West very well. I work with the University of Kisii. And the problem we are having in the university is that you want to show the graduates how to go back to the village and set up a simple manufacturing entity, as simple as making soap. 3 items, water, sodium hydroxide, and any vegetable oil. Mix the 3, and you have soap. They cannot see that. Those who can see it, they think it's a very low job. And yet, Allow me not to sound a little bit different. My brothers, especially of Indian origin, because they saw that in India, when they come here, they are able to start with almost no capital and set up a huge soft factory within a very short time and have success. Now, my request to the panel today, if you can consider, if you have a capability of accelerating, can you use the people in the diaspora of African origin, because already those people, they are entrepreneurs. To get a visa from Kenya to be in America, you have skills, you have the desire, you have used a lot of imagination, and you want to change your life. That's why you're migrating. So these people have got the capacity and the ability to do something that is to be able to come back. Yeah. For example, I am a naturalized American, but I decided to come back to Africa. I live right in the village to be able to make a difference in the village.
So let me ask the question, because this will be the last question, and then we'll have a few moments to say whatever you want to say. So diaspora, is it something that can be leveraged? In the broader point about, and you said international mentors, can people from the U.S., let's blame us, be useful in emerging markets? So they have to be diaspora.
Let me just answer that very quickly. Great comment, so thank you very much. You know, the diaspora is going to be absolutely vital to further development of the continent. We've already seen this, so this is not reinventing the wheel. I like to use the example of countries like Taiwan, South Korea, and now increasingly China. These are countries that had economic struggles not that long ago. Korea was a third world country 50 years ago. They've used their diaspora to incredible gains, and I think Africa can do the same thing. By the way, I should also add that our brothers in Nigeria, you know, this is a country that gets a lot of bad rap, not very good reputation. They are doing incredibly with the diaspora, and what is interesting is that they're not fixated with just their own. They're reaching out to people like me, who have nothing to do with Nigeria, but I've spent an awful lot of time in Nigeria because I get invited by people there. They have recognized the need to bring in people who've been exposed to a different culture and way of doing things, and I would be a strong advocate of doing exactly the same thing in this part of the world.
Is this last concluding comment?
No. You can. Are there any other responses related to the diaspora comment? And then we'll do the last.
Thank you, and complete agreement.
Anything else? All right. Then you can have the beginning of the last word.
All right. So just the last word. Why don't you start? I missed the what am I supposed to say? You want 2 minutes, just thoughts?
No, so I'm just saying that you have about a minute to impart any additional knowledge, insight, or fanaticism that you would like to
I don't know. I guess all I would say is like there's no model that works or doesn't work per se. Like it's always customized, it's always different, it's always difficult. Like so startups are just hard. And the part of what I would say the most important, the only thing that really matters is how passionate are you about getting the outcome that you are seeking. If you really deeply care, you can overcome amazing obstacles and get stuff done, right? Gandhi helped to remove the British Empire from India by walking to go get salt in the ocean. Like what a crazy, and among many other things, but like what an incredible challenge, what an impossible thing to do, and with very limited resources, and made an amazing impact on the world. People, it's possible to be amazing. You just have to desire it, and you have to feel it in your heart and know what you want, and then obstacles kind of dissolve in front of you, and you can get things done. So that's the most important. I don't think you need an accelerator necessarily. You have to decide if it's going to speed up your process or not, and all of the circumstances will be different. So there's no one cookie cutter easy answer, but feel it, love it, work hard, and you will get awesome results.
So I think at the end of the day, from an entrepreneur perspective, what really makes you an entrepreneur is not on the skills or education, not on the money, not
on the network. All of these things are great, but it's more on your behavior and attitude. So you are an entrepreneur because you decided to take initiative, to wake up in the morning and to say, I am going to do this. I'm going to take the risk, whatever it takes, and I'm going to work very hard, and I'm going to stand again every time I fall. That's your decision. One of the decisions that comes with this is you have many resources around, accelerators, investors, whatever is there. Choosing which resource you use is part of the wisdom of your decisions. The idea of, you know what, I have an acceleration program, why not? Let me go and spend a few months there, is not a very wise idea. It's about what do I need at this point? What is the best use of my time, energy, money, everything? Is this a useful place to go and attend that program, whatever it offers? And they offer very, very different things from place to another, or not. If it makes sense for you, know what you want to get out of it. I think this is your point, Susan's point. What do you want to get out of this? Maybe it's money, maybe it's one single mentor that you want to meet and that's worth the whole thing. Maybe it's a place to start, maybe it's just having people around you, maybe, I don't know. But know what you want to get out of it and go for that. And I think that applies for everything and every other resource that applies, including e-learning, blended learning, everything that we have. You have to make a decision because time is really the most valuable commodity. Everything else you can make, money you can make, business you can make, but time is very valuable at some point in time. Even if you don't run out of time, you run out of energy and you get bored. So move fast as you can and make your own decisions.
Okay, thanks. How many of you know who LeBron James is? Okay, so he's the most incredible basketball player on the planet. If you read the newspaper at the end of the game and you discover that he scored 30 points, you have no idea how many times he had to shoot to get 30 points. It's usually not just 15. It is a lot more than that, even on a good day. So what we have to become really comfortable with, particularly on this continent, is with the notion that for every 100 startups that we try to launch, a good 90%, perhaps even more than 90%, are going to fail. Only about 5–10% are going to work. We need to become comfortable with that notion. Because even in Silicon Valley, a lot of startups get going and they do not make it. And the very few that you hear about, Google, Facebook, and so on, they have a lot of others behind them that you didn't hear about. The final thing I'm going to say is the panel didn't really get a chance to talk about capacity building on this continent. We should all be alarmed by the fact that again, I go back to Korea and Japan, where I've spent a little bit of time just trying to understand how they're doing things. Japan has a population of about 130 million people, and Korea has one of about 40 million people. So together, those two countries have about 170 million people. That is the population of Nigeria, 170 million people. In Korea and Japan put together, they graduate 150,000 engineers per year. In Nigeria, the number is less than 10,000. And if you integrated that over the entire continent of Africa with 1 billion people, we are graduating 50,000 engineers per year. So two countries with 170 graduate 150,000, and our continent with 1 billion graduates 1/3 that number. So if we are really serious about entrepreneurship and building wealth that is going to include manufacturing in the mix, you recognize how many more engineers we need and how many of them will have to have entrepreneurial skills in order to carry the continent upwards. Thank you.
I'll take this. Whatever. A couple of things. One is, whether you go on an accelerator or an incubator or not, it's really about preparing yourself for growing a business and starting a business, growing a business, taking it seriously. And so you can identify what you need and go find people who can help you. You can figure out who knows about something you need to know and go ask them. And there's an adage in Silicon Valley, which got quoted yesterday, which is you ask for support from some sophisticated entrepreneur, you may just get money. And so one of the things we didn't talk about at all today is growing the base of investors that can match the entrepreneurial capacity that we're aiming to grow. And how are we growing that base of investors here in Africa? One way is not just to be, hi, I'd like some money from you, but hi, I think you know about something I really need to know about. You've built a business, you've solved a problem that I need to solve, can you help me? And if it's a person who then really gets connected to your business and really wants to support you in your business, then the money may follow. And so I think one of the things that we need to be consciously thinking about as entrepreneurs, as people who are building the ecosystem, is how do we really build that base of investors who then also can provide other support. And some of that is going to come from entrepreneurs who not only know how to ask, and people often say it's the women that don't ask because they sort of don't have the confidence to ask. Actually, it's the men and the women who often will not admit what they don't know, or they're afraid to say, I don't know how to do this. So whether you're a male or female entrepreneur, to be clear in your ask, and then to be really responsive. Because if somebody asks me for help, and I give them some help, and then they're not responsive around it, I'm gone. But if you are really willing to listen, really willing to take information in and do something with it and come back and say, by the way, that thing you did for me, that was super helpful, and here's what I did with it, then you also build relationships. And to raise money, which we didn't talk as much about, you got to build relationships. And you got to have a reputation as an entrepreneur who is coachable and who is self-aware and who is going to take it seriously. So my advice would be, whether you come on a formal program or not, you can go buy a copy of Lean Startup. Be really insanely user-centric and stakeholder-centric. And then think about the resources that you might have around you, and who knows somebody who could be helpful, and then be really, really good with them so that they will be good to you.
Well, just hold it.
Well, just to finish, I'm not here as a professor. I'm here as an entrepreneur, because I am the entrepreneur of E4Impact, that is Entrepreneurship for Impact. And so I'm looking for partners for a big alliance, because we want to create E4Impact Alliance, a Pan-African alliance, to help the development of entrepreneurship. No? So we are looking for entrepreneurs, because they could become guest speakers, judges of our the business idea competition with which we start the program, and so on. We are looking for new university, because we want to become really Pan-African, so to reach 15 countries. And we are looking for associations. So really, please keep in touch and try to build this common alliance. Thank you.
Use the app. So, Suzanne wants another quick one.
Sorry, just one quick thing.
It better be good.
So yes, it's good. I promise you. If you want to know if an accelerator is working, and we want to know if ours is, go find Toto Health, Africa Aqua, and Village Energy, who are 3 of our entrepreneurs, because they're all here. And just ask them what their experience was, and ask them if they have something that they can share with you about what they took away.
And so, to be provocative, I would say, while you should talk to them if you care about understanding accelerators, we still don't know, and we still don't know because we don't have benchmarks.
Right.
We don't know what a good satisfaction rate is. We don't know what percentage of an accelerator incubatees should get investment, and particularly in the context of knowing it in Kenya versus the United States, or knowing it in a rural area of Kenya versus Nairobi. So what I'm committing to you is I am on a personal crusade to get better data so that entrepreneurs can make better decisions about whether or not accelerators make sense for them. But I want to end on a positive note, because I'm not actually this much of an accelerator critic. The initial research that we have done does in fact show that those businesses which are accelerated do have higher revenues, more investment raised, and a faster or a better survival rate than those businesses that aren't. Now, we don't know whether it's because accelerators picked really well,
Right.
or because the accelerator programs actually had a major impact. But at least we can say that it seems like there is some correlation. So we'll have a lot more to say about that as our research continues, and I hope that you'll all take a look at it as it's relevant to you. So that was my final statement. With that, first of all of you for bearing with the technology and for trying to use all the cool technological advances that have been designed probably here in Kenya. So thank you for being such an active and engaged audience. And to the panelists, thank you very much for your insights and for spending time with us here today in Nairobi. Let's all go be entrepreneurial and have some drinks. Cheers.